This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by eXp Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
Matt, there has been a lot of discussion lately about higher education, high school education. People are moving based off this.
Yeah.
But really, do you even need a high school diploma these days?
I would say that would be the bare minimum basic requirement to do anything in this country.
So you're basic.
It's like knowing how to read or drive a car.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
So you're saying if you don't have a high school diploma, you're just...
What's that?
If you don't have a high school diploma, you're never going to be successful. Is that what you're saying?
I would say it would be very tough and challenging to do so. It would take a very unique person to be able to achieve success without a high school diploma.
To overcome that.
Right, to overcome that hurdle. Just because so many different employers require that, I would assume.
I don't
right?
know. I've never run into it. It's not
well, we have a great example today, I guess, who's able to achieve success without a high school diploma.
Lisa Massey, Snap NHD.
I feel like we need a round of applause.
Thank you for being on the show. So, Lisa, but all jokes aside, you didn't achieve a high school diploma, right?
Correct, I did not.
And yet you're sitting here, you're on a radio show.
I feel like you could be arrested. Like the police could find out where you live, go to your house, and mandate that you return to school to get that high school diploma.
Yeah, you got to have voter ID and a high school diploma.
There you go, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. But your life journey has started in a sense that in a state that maybe wasn't the most advantageous, but now here you are and you've risen above it. What would you say for people out there who maybe are in a situation that they're disadvantaged, maybe they're feeling like the victim? Mm-hmm. What was the difference between where you were then, younger in life, and where you are now? What made that difference?
I think a lot of it has to do with a mindset, a tenacity to be different, I guess, than how you're maybe raised or the conditioning that happens as a child.
Yeah.
And I think for me, like my father, he didn't graduate high school. My mother did not graduate high school. My father did. So there were people in our family that actually never had a high school diploma. My dad and my mom were, successful to an extent, but it had limitations, right?
Sure.
And so I think a lot of it for me was I had a life where I had to start really young and get out there and get into the workforce at a super young age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it required me to do that, and I wasn't able to continue going to school.
So your mindset is the X factor between where you were then and where you are now?
Absolutely. Yeah. I just, for whatever reason, I always had this drive in me, like I could take care of myself, and this is what I needed to do that, right?
Yep.
So I had at one point, I was 17 when I left home, and I had 4 jobs. One of my first jobs, I was 15. I worked at Roseville Family Restaurant in Old Roseville on Riverside Boulevard. Have you guys ever been there? They are still around.
What are they
really
called
good
again?
breakfast.
What are they called?
Roseville Family Restaurant.
Roseville Family Restaurant.
Wait, where is it? Is it
And
across?
it's delicious.
Is it across from?
There used to be an old car dealership that was right across from it.
So look for a restaurant that could be a car dealership.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
It's grown a lot since then. We're talking.
Do they do all meals, or is it like a breakfast lunch?
It's
only?
breakfast lunch.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's my jam.
And it's
I
family
love the
owned.
breakfast
It's
places.
really, really good.
Got it.
You
So you
guys
started
would
there
love
at
it.
15.
I started there at 15, and I had that job.
Or washing dishes, or
Well, no, my
tables?
aunt worked there actually, and she was a waitress. So yes, I would bus tables, and then eventually I moved into that as well, and we both, would work together, and it was fun. But I did that. I kept that job because I worked there on the weekends just until 2 p.m. And then I worked for Rayleigh's grocery store.
Nice.
And I worked for the mall. I had lots of jobs.
I think that's an important activity or experience that one should have to be successful, either working as a waiter or waitress or working in fast food. Because you learn to hustle, you learn to be a servant and serve people, which is a key ingredient to being successful in business, is learning how to serve people.
I agree.
And I think that's a great experience to have.
Have you heard my my restaurant story?
No, I don't think I have.
You haven't? So my So my dad was very, like, he worked me as like a kid, like doing chores around the house.
Right,
Like
slave labor, child labor.
Did you mow
was okay
lawns?
back
I
in the day.
did.
I did not mow lawns. We didn't have a lawn. We had like, what was it? I want to say it was like 80 tons of river rock around the house. So it was like an ocean of river rock. And so I had to
I know. I
take
realized
that
you
out
had a
and then
specific
weed.
number. It was 80 tons of river rock.
I mean, it was an insane amount of rock. But they were very intentional that they didn't want me to have a job, but I also didn't have any money until I graduated high school. So I remember it was in my junior year or senior summer. I started working at Red Robin.
I love their French fries
French
and their
fries are
ranch
the
dressing.
best. French fries, ranch dressing, and those shakes. Oh my goodness! I gained like 20 pounds one summer working there. But
As a waiter?
or
a busboy?
Busboy, Expo, I think they called them, whatever they were.
Oh, okay.
And I was the world's worst. Like absolutely the
He was
worst.
eating the whole time.
Why were you so bad at it?
I don't know. It just, I think I just didn't know what was going on because we didn't eat out at all growing up, and so I'm like, I don't understand who's doing what's going on. Everybody just assumed, and the quintessential Red Robin story was, so I was so bad at it. I had dated a Polish girl, and her last name was Kovnachka, which is a heck of a name to spell.
Sure.
So I had written on my name tab Kovnachka, so people wouldn't try to flag me down because they go, "Hey Johnny, you know." So I put
my
Oh, that is
Kovnachka on it.
funny. Oh, Johnny.
And so I'm walking through the restaurant, and this guy just like grabs me, or this lady just flags me down, and she's like, "Hey, can I get some more of the cheese bread?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And I walk back, and the cheese bread was under heat lamps. And so what we would do, you know, behind the counter, is you would just take the cheese bread with your fingers off of the platter, and you would put it on a separate little plate and bring it out to the customer. Well, I was in a hurry. I was rushing around. I just grabbed the cheese bread and I started walking back to her. And about halfway across the room, we locked eyes. And I have her cheese bread in my hand. And I just handed it to her and I put it down on her plate. And it was just an awkward moment. I walked away. And then my server comes, "Dude, did you hand her the cheese bread? You didn't put it on a plate?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know." Long story.
Oh my gosh.
So from
How
then
old
on, I
were
was 17.
Okay.
17.
Wow.
See, 17.
Yeah. But
That's
anyways,
hilarious.
a lot of respect for people that work in restaurants. I don't know about you, Lisa, but I always tip them heavily. Like
Absolutely.
Like at least 20%, or at least $5 if it's even just a coffee.
When you've been on that end of, you know,
Right.
the work.
the service
Yeah.
industry, you really appreciate all that they do.
And they
even
might-
if it's handing you direct
I
cheese bread.
know. I know. And even if, because you never know too, like what's going on in their day. Like they may have had a horrible day, and that's maybe why the service is poor. And so I'm just trying to move past that. But anyways, we're not here to talk about high school diplomas or cheese bread. We are here to talk about Snap NHD.
Snap NHD.
NHD.
In a snap.
In a snap. You can get it in a snap. So NHD, what does that stand for?
So, natural hazard disclosures. So, I provide natural hazard disclosures throughout the real estate industry, throughout the state of California, because that is where it is required at this time.
So it's a required disclosure by the state and
Civil Code 1103.
Civil Code 1103. And what most people don't realize is that the flood maps and the fire zones, everything changes a lot. We've had like Mike, Matt's co-host, has had issues with that. A lot of local people have had issues with that. How accurate, like how up to date is Snap's NHD maps?
Well, we stay up to date with all requirements. So, anytime FEMA has a newly adopted maps, you know, if you think about the special flood zones, all of those maps are updated as soon as we get them. A lot of times, even before we know as we know the information is coming, we start to implement the system because we are a data technology company. So it's very easy for us to update these maps. And then, you know, we follow the guidelines for CAL FIRE. So anytime those new maps, which we just had them, there was probably a 30% change in, you know, new maps that came out from CAL
Really?
FIRE just last month.
30, like statewide or?
Yes, in
Okay.
the state of California.
Okay.
And think about all the fires that just happened in
Yeah.
Los Angeles and
So when those maps get updated, when you say 30%, was the number of high fire zones, did it increase by 30%?
yes.
Wow. That's
Correct.
a lot.
They're in the high fire severity zone.
Okay. this might be outside the scope of your purview, but do you know why they go from not being a high fire zone to becoming a high fire zone?
A lot of it is determined on future risk and past fires that have happened, right? So they can start to determine, okay, based on natural disasters that have happened in these specific areas, whether it's weather, climate, there's determining factors that they come up with that puts that home at risk for future loss.
So somebody may have bought a house not in a high fire zone, and now they're selling a house in a fire zone.
Correct. And it could be within a very short amount of time, as you can see, with CAL FIRE coming out with more maps in March, which we did a whole release. We had it in the second week, the third week, and then the last week was, the last adopted maps, right? Mm-hmm. So it just, as they become available to us, we're right on top of it, and we let our client base know right away.
So for the home seller and for the home buyer listening, the reason why this is important is it can impact your insurance, right?
Absolutely.
If you're in a high flood, high fire. Yeah.
Well, if you think about it for the buyer, if they're going into a home not thinking that they're going to need flood or fire insurance, then they get in to go to close escrow. They realize, the natural hazard disclosure, they didn't order that maybe at the time of listing. Mm-hmm. Now they're realizing they're in a high fire severity zone or special flood, and now they're going to need that insurance. And we're seeing astronomical, prices increased, for the year on that policy. So think about, it could be $500 a month. We've seen it to where it's in the thousands. So
yeah, I would say $500 is not that bad.
It's not.
It's not great. Nobody wants to pay for $500.
That's still a lot, but
that's not.
But
as
we've
bad
seen
as it
it real high, and so when you think about getting down to closing escrow, you're thinking, well, that buyer now has to qualify for that as well.
Right.
Yep.
And that's where the deal can potentially fall out. So it's very important to get that NHD at the time of listing.
Absolutely. And that's something that we do with the Made for More team is as soon as we get a signed listing agreement, we reach out to Lisa and her team at Snap NHD and make sure that we have that document. And then we upload it to the MLS so that way agents can see it. Now, whether or not agents,
I love that.
Whether or not agents are looking at it, agents sometimes you guys don't even look at the showing instructions, but whether or not it is there, so that way it gives the potential buyer all that information up front, so they know exactly what they're purchasing, and there's no surprises.
Absolutely.
In the 11th hour.
Just put it in the remarks, the company, it's already opened. A lot of listing agents do that when they're directing where the escrow goes, right? They tend to pick their title company.
Pre-opened with Margaret Harris, Chicago.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yep, we love Margaret.
Margaret's great.
When we come back, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about AB 38 and how getting that Snap NHD inspection ordered up front can actually help with that.
You go to the grocery store these days and you hardly ever talk to a real person. Everything's self-checkout and you're on your way. You call up customer service for a business and it's all automated responses. Sometimes you want to talk to a real live person. You want that engagement, especially when it comes to one of the biggest transactions of your life, selling your home. And that's why we love Johnny Jennings and his amazing team at Made for More Realty. It's not just us that love them. You know what? They have so many 5-star Google reviews. In fact, over 1,000 of them that you can go check out right now. So if you're curious how you can get at least 3 cash offers on your home in as-is condition, reach out to Johnny Jennings and his amazing team at Made for More Realty and get more for your home.